Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. There was one company, GlaxoSmithKline, that was in the midst of phase 3 trials for their maternal RSV vaccine and had an increase in premature births, including deaths associated with premature births. So they dropped the program. This is the most common reason for children to come into the hospital. This nirsevimab or Beyfortus is a long-acting monoclonal antibody directed against the fusion protein, and it should do much to prevent hospitalization, which occurs primarily in the first 6 months of life.
I don't know if it's a mycoplasma epidemic or a social media epidemic for mycoplasma, because they come in and they say, there's mycoplasma, there's walking pneumonia in my kid's classroom.
During that pandemic, it dropped like every other respiratory disease. Then it jumped back up. And what they're claiming in an epidemic now is that their samples are 3% positive for mycoplasma pneumonia in the nose. Now, what does that mean?
Back in the day when Dr. Bravo was a little doctor, people used to not go to the doctor right away. You know how many times I asked, how long you been sick for? An hour.
For me, I've just been being on the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee. I've been immersed in COVID. So to me, it's COVID all the time. But he thinks the COVID vaccine is the most dangerous vaccine ever made. He drinks raw milk because he doesn't believe in pasteurization, which is interesting since it's because of pasteurization that milk no longer contains E. coli and Salmonella and Listeria and Campylobacter. He believes that SARS-CoV-2 virus was created in the laboratory, which is wrong. It was an animal to human spillover event. He doesn't believe in the germ theory. Okay, I don't know what the criteria are for being head of Health and Human Services. I would like to think that's one of them. You're absolutely right that there has been a major loss of trust in public health agencies, and that major loss of trust occurred during this pandemic. We saw not one case of RSV or flu in the winter of 2020, 2021. That's amazing. Should natural infection count as a vaccine? It makes perfect sense. It would. If you assume you survive natural infection, you definitely are immune, and or you even immune in a better manner because now you have an immune response to all 4 viral proteins and not just the one in the vaccine. The policies behind, or the science behind policy should always be debated openly.
Don't believe the Catholic Church. They're not always right. Don't believe the CDC. They're not always right. Don't believe the NIH. They're not always right. And suck down, listen to your patient. Because sometimes the patient knows more than the experts.
It was galling that people thought, I don't want to get a vaccine because that's my medical freedom to do that. And yet at the same time, they were asking us to take care of them. Wait, the president's saying they're going to have a 3rd dose. And now we're saying we're not approving that. It's the difference between what's the difference between fully vaccinated or fully protected? The language got really confusing. It's so easy to make the financial association and dismiss people. I'm the co-inventor of the rotavirus vaccine. And so, although my funding always came from the National Institutes of Health, people always say I'm deeply in the pocket of industry because Merck made our vaccine. We weren't going to make it in our basement.
You either are invited to the dinner party or you're the supper. Decide. Why should I put my kid's leg so that they can get richer? Does it do good for my kid, or does it just make money for some people?
We've eliminated the memory of measles. People don't remember how sick that virus can make you. I don't think people realize how contagious this virus is. We have the flu model or the SARS-CoV-2 COVID model, which has a reproducibility index of about 2 to 4. Measles has a reproducibility index of 18. You just have to be in that person's airspace within 2 hours of them being there.
If HIV gave you a red dot in the middle of your forehead, no one in their sane mind, no matter how drunk they were, would have sex with you.
Children gradually use sort of their handwriting becomes less legible. They start to have personality changes, and then they lose motor and sensory skills, and they die. It's invariable that they die.
You had fevers, 105, 106 fevers. You had this thick stuff in the roof of your mouth. You could just scoop it right out of your mouth because you couldn't breathe. You were dehydrated. You couldn't eat.
The birth of summer camps where children would be sent away to camps in Maine or Vermont or New Hampshire was really because people wanted to get kids out of the city during the summer. It still remains my concept of hell, that 6 weeks that I was there.
If we wanted a double-blinded study, and this is very cruel, we could go to Gaza and see what happened when they stopped giving the oral polio vaccine in Gaza and they had a polio outbreak.
Safe, potent, and effective. But how did we know it was effective? We knew it was effective because 36 children were paralyzed in that study, 34 in the placebo group. We knew it was effective because 16 children died of polio in that study, all in the placebo group. There was a case of polio in Rockland County, New York in 2022. That was a 27-year-old man who never left this country. When you get polio and you're paralyzed by polio, remember only 1 in 200 people who are infected are paralyzed. So he was tip of a much bigger iceberg.
Why are these anti-vax people even debating polio? We've been given polio, the inactivated, for 24 years, 25 years. It's been around a long time.
What did Bobby have to do with the death of 80 children in Samoa?
There were 5,700 cases of measles and 84 deaths. Virtually all of those deaths occurred in children less than 4 years of age. And I think RFK Jr. had everything to do with that. It's not measles virus that's doing it. It's measles vaccine virus. Now, in fact, this was investigated by public health officials. It was the D8 strain of wild-type measles virus.
We have a crisis of chronic disease in our children.
You can't have a person like that in that position. Turn this over to civil courts and civil court lawyers, and you will end vaccine manufacturing in this country. That's what will happen. To me, there's no such thing as alternative medicine. If a medicine works, then it works. If an alternative medicine doesn't work, then it's not an alternative. You can vaccinate everybody in the world, and still this virus is going to circulate.
The U.S. is a puffock. It is. It's just a big freaking pot, and we throw potatoes and turkey and whatever's in the refrigerator, and we boil it, and we see what it tastes like. I think new people bring new ideas, new management styles, and lessens corruption. 12 years for you to lead the NIH is enough. Go find another job. Let somebody else do this job.
This vaccine, which came in 1991, has virtually eliminated hepatitis B in children less than 19 years of age. Remarkable. I think it's going to be a dangerous time to be a child in the United States of America.
Let's talk about the hepatitis B next time you come in. Because those other 4, I really think they could kill your kid.
Brand new vaccine. People are breaking the doors down for it, and they'll give it to that kid 24 hours of age, no problem.
You're the pediatrician of 2024 for the Pediatric Lounge, and we want to thank you for not this year, but decades of work, decades of informing pediatricians, decades of educating our children, and the millions of lives that you have saved by preventing children from dying from rotavirus. You are our hero.